They were a people enslaved, beaten down for generations. Yet God raised a leader, Moses, to deliver them with a mighty hand. This is the epic story of Moses and the Israelites, a journey of faith, rebellion, miracles, and the unfailing promises of God. For 400 years the Israelites lived in Egypt, but as their numbers grew, Pharaoh feared them. He enslaved them, and ordered every newborn Hebrew boy to be killed. Hope seemed lost, but God had a plan. A Hebrew child was hidden in a basket and placed on the Nile. Pharaoh's daughter found him and named him Moses. Raised as a prince but born as a slave, Moses lived between two worlds until the day he fled into the wilderness after killing an Egyptian. For 40 years he lived in obscurity, until God appeared to him in a burning bush and said, "I have heard the cries of my people. Now go, I am sending you to Pharaoh." Moses returned with a message from the Lord, "Let my people go." But Pharaoh's heart was hardened, so Egypt was struck with plagues, water turned to blood, frogs covered the land, hail fell from the sky, darkness swallowed Egypt. Finally, the last plague came, the death of the firstborn. That night the Israelites marked their doors with lamb's blood, the first Passover, and when judgment came, they were spared. At last, Pharaoh gave the command, "Go!" The Israelites marched out of Egypt, but Pharaoh changed his mind and pursued them to the shores of the Red Sea. With the sea before them and the army behind, the people panicked, but Moses declared, "Do not be afraid, the Lord will fight for you." He raised his staff and the waters parted. Israel crossed on dry ground while Pharaoh's army was swept away. The slaves were free. God had delivered his people. But freedom was only the beginning. In the wilderness, hunger and thirst tested their faith. They grumbled, saying, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt to die here?" Yet God provided. Manna fell from heaven like bread, water flowed from a rock. By day he led them with a pillar of cloud, and by night with fire. Still, their hearts wandered. At Mount Sinai, God revealed himself in fire and thunder. Moses climbed the mountain and received the 10 Commandments, the covenant that would shape Israel's identity. But while he was on the mountain, the people grew impatient. They built a golden calf and bowed to it. Moses returned in fury, breaking the stone tablets. Yet he pleaded for them, and God showed mercy, renewing the covenant. It was a lesson Israel would face again and again. God is faithful, but his people must choose him daily. When they reached the edge of the promised land, 12 spies were sent to scout it. The land was good, but 10 spies brought fear. "The people are giants, we cannot win." The Israelites wept, saying, "Better to return to Egypt." Because of their unbelief, God declared the generation would wander 40 years in the wilderness until all who doubted had passed away. Only Joshua and Caleb believed, and only they would enter the land. Moses carried the weight of a stubborn nation. Again and again the people complained, rebelled, and turned against him. At one point, Korah led a rebellion claiming Moses had no right to lead. But the ground opened and swallowed the rebels, proving God's choice. Even Moses struggled. At Meribah, in frustration, he struck the rock instead of speaking to it as God commanded. Because of this, he was told he would not enter the promised land. Leadership came with pain, sacrifice, and consequence. At last, after 40 years, Israel stood on the banks of the Jordan, ready to enter the promised land. Moses climbed Mount Nebo, where God showed him the land flowing with milk and honey. There Moses died, and God himself buried him. Joshua would lead the people forward, but Moses' legacy was secure. He had delivered God's people from bondage and given them the law of the covenant. The story of Moses and the Israelites is more than history. It's a mirror for us today. God delivers his people. Just as he freed Israel, he delivers us from sin through Christ. Freedom requires faith. Israel left Egypt, but Egypt never left their hearts. Faith is more than escape, it is trust. Leadership is costly. Moses bore the weight of a nation, teaching us that true leaders serve even when it hurts. God is faithful, even when we are not. Through rebellion and wandering, his promise never failed. And just as God brought Israel to the edge of the promised land, he leads us toward his promises today. Moses and the Israelites remind us that the journey of faith is not easy. It is filled with struggles, doubts, and failures, but it is also filled with miracles, mercy, and the unshakable presence of God. And just as he was with Israel in the wilderness, he walks with us on our journey to his promised future.